So I just wonder how long until the government starts to pay attention to us.
Do you think they might be already? We love you, government.
Oh, this is a show that we made for your mom and your dad and your aunties too. So grab yourself a coffee, it's a crack of dawn, and strap yourself in for a Heaps Good Morning.
It is another Heaps Good Sunday morn, and yet again we are here to delight and entertain.
And possibly inform and blow your mind.
Alright, so hopefully this time we'll be able to actually film this shit properly, because we were about 3-4 minutes into filming this, and then the camera decided to turn off on us. Alright, so this week we're extending on our conspiracy, but not just conspiracies.
No, we couldn't limit to just conspiracies, so we're calling this episode Top 10 Mind Right in the old brain.
It's kind of like my pooter diddling from last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of positive feedback about our conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
There's been unmarked cars parked in front of our house.
The black ones.
So we must be onto something.
I think we must be onto something.
So we're going to start this episode. We're not doing reenactments. We're not tasting dog food. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff.
What? No more dog food?
No. Period.
You're a party pooper.
No. I guess if your party consists of dog food, I don't want to be on the invite list. What we're going to do this week is we're just going to do a top 10 list of things you probably shouldn't contemplate when you're feeling medicinally introspective. You know, if you're at home, alone, freaked out.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't think about this stuff.
I never do that.
It's a top 10 and then an honorable mention. We're going to go through them quickly because in the future we will address them more in depth. In future episodes. So this is our starting point, and if there are things, this is in no order, so it's not really a top 10, it's just a 10.
But we are going to rate it though.
We're going to give it a thumbs up if we buy it, a thumbs down if it's utter trash, and a meh if it's feasible. We need to investigate it further.
Yeah.
Okay,
so let's start.
Oh,
this is going to be great.
Okay, so I've got the list here in my top secret notebook that let's hope the government doesn't get a hold of, because, you know, we are big players.
Yeah. And she doesn't have a padlock on her diary, so...
No, I've got a really medium strength piece of elastic. So let's just start out with, I've called this group Flora and Fauna.
Yep.
And I think that just encompasses Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Abominable Snowman, Chupacabra, Loch Ness Monster, all of those kinds of creatures that live in nature. Pardon me. No nachos, so should we say. That are kind of unexplained. The world is kind of torn on whether they exist. They have kind of like a respected reverence about them. So what do you think about that? Thumbs up, thumbs down, or meh?
Well, look, I like things like the Loch Ness and things like that.
I more than like that
really?
stuff. I love it all. I love it all.
See, well, okay, I'm going to say, because I don't want to be extraordinarily pessimistic to start off the bat straight away, I'm going to give it an Okay, there we go. So
I just think there's so much uncharted water, woodlands, things like that in this beautiful planet of ours. I think that it's really... A common theme in all of this stuff for me is that it's really arrogant to think we're the only ones.
Well, I have to admit, and we were speaking about before of the ocean and how big the ocean is and how small amount of the ocean we've actually discovered. So I might actually change my meh to, there's a
possibility.
Good possibility.
And we'll branch out on that and do some of our own investigations. You know, in our chartered plane, we're going to go to... Loch Ness and do some investigation about that because we're both licensed scuba divers.
Yeah. And we're so rich that we can just afford to pick up and move and go wherever we want.
We don't even need to monetize these videos because we are so independently wealthy. Okay, so that's the first one, and we will, if you want to hear more about it, then that can be top of the list for us to discuss. And if there's some that you think we don't know about, then let us know. Like I said, I went Mexican, Irish. No, Loch Ness is in Scotland. Yeah, Mexico, Scotland, America, Canada. If there's more, don't send us stuff about the drop bear.
Why? The drop bear's important to Australian culture.
But it's not a... No. Just no. Okay. So number 2. I've just called this political government control.
Okay. So what does this embody? What does it involve?
Well, there's those people that put tape over their webcams because the government can watch their every movement.
Yeah.
There's those people that clear their GPS history because the government is tracking my Uncle David to the local shops. I don't know why he uses GPS to the local shops, and I don't have an Uncle David, but I'm just saying, there's those people, what else is there? Chemtrails, people that think the government control the weather.
Yep. Look, I had a mate. He was a former band member. Yeah. And he was to the point
to hold.
It is, isn't it? Ali says the same thing. He was so in depth with the government's out to get me. He would not have a phone of any kind, did not own a mobile, did not have a house phone. His electricity was in a false name just because he didn't want people to know where he lived.
Was he a little bit schizophrenic though, maybe? Was his paranoia based out of a mental health thing?
I think schizophrenia is just putting it lightly.
Oh, okay. Then you have that whole genre of government stuff that you're really into, the JFK assassination, 9/11, was the government involved, that kind of stuff. So all of that's kind of like political government control stuff.
Yep. To which I'm going to thumbs up.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
I reckon there is so much of the government. And look, there's levels of the government that not even the president of America knows about.
Yeah.
I heard there was something up to even possibly another 8 to 10 levels of government above the president.
Well, that's reassuring when you have someone in the chair like Donald Trump. But anyways, I've got no opinion about that. So we both double thumbs up that. Because it's totally feasible that the government controls things that we aren't even aware of.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that doesn't mean we have proof. That just means that based on our little bit of knowledge before our investigating, we think it's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, so the next one is secret organizations.
Okay, so we're diving into things...
Illuminati, Freemasons, the Order of the Eastern Star, Brothers and Sisters, which is, I think, if I understand correctly, a spin-off of the Freemasons.
Yeah.
You've got the senior organization from Yale University, Skull and Bones.
Yep, which a lot of former, at least 3 former presidents, I believe, were
because they were Yale graduates.
Yeah.
You have the Bohemian Club.
Yep, which is connected a lot to the Illuminati and the Masons, I believe, and Skull and Bones.
Probably, although Bohemian Club's out of California, Sonoma Valley, and San Francisco, so I don't know about their connection to Skull and Bones unless people have relocated. But again, we haven't investigated this stuff. So I guess really what we're saying is there's no question about whether they exist or... Oh, there's a bit of question about the Illuminati. And the Pentavlet, there's that one as well. And these are just English-speaking Western world ones. Like, we don't know about European ones, stuff like that. So there's no question they exist. I think what is scary about these kind of like scholarly secret groups is what they control and what they have involvement in.
Well, that's exactly right. What do they call it? It's like this pyramid of different levels of government and things like that. I think they call it the shadow government or something like that. New World Order.
Yeah, and you also, and falling under that secret organization stuff, you also have underworld organizations like, a really common one is the mob. Everyone knows that the mob controls more than just illegality. Like, they control, originally they had a lot to do with like the Union. You've got organizations like Notorious, and they control kind of like the comings and goings of certain illicit drugs and things like that, which, whether you want to admit it or not, plays a lot in kind of our socioeconomic socioeconomic world, middle class kind of thing. So it's not just about government and smart people or book learned people. It's also about underworld groups and stuff like that. So, I mean, you'd be dumb not to thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely thumbs up.
Definitely exists. Who knows if they work together or they, you know, because you look at other countries and you have like, I've gone totally blank, in China. Well, okay, so like in Japan you have the Yakuza.
Yep.
Known mainly for their street gang kind of presence, but also once a year they have street festivals celebrating the Yakuza because they also do a lot for kind of like lower socioeconomic areas, and they do charitable acts, and they
do a lot. Now I'm going from
Yakuza,
cartoons here.
Yakuza or Yakuza, anyway, something like that.
Don't they also do a lot of street racing as well?
Well, that's part of that kind of thing, you know, the car.
Yeah, once again, I'm only know this from Archer, if anyone watches that adult cartoon.
Let's definitely base our knowledge on adult definitely.
Because that works.
Because that has always gotten us really far. So there's that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, we haven't researched it. So thumbs up. Those are definitely a thing.
Yep.
Worthy of mindfucking.
Yeah. All right, so what's next?
Coming around the corner, we've got, I've just called this one Space and Dimensions.
Yep.
In that one, I've included the Black Knight satellite.
Yep, which is space junk.
That has a mappable orbit.
It does. Apparently, it has a close to, or it has a polar orbit on Earth. They reckon that it's possibly an alien satellite that's keeping an eye on us.
Speaking of aliens in general, the existence of, possibility of. Then you have that whole school of thinking, which this kind of, and a lot of these bleed into each other. So with this kind of unknown space thing, you've got the moon landing.
Yeah.
Gaz and I, house husband, which he doesn't live in the house anymore, and we're not actually married to him, but we call him house husband. Him and I were discussing the moon landing and the basic kind of like total space travel inactivity and like non-effectiveness of further space travel after we landed and walked on the moon in America, and the great space race between America and Russia, and how once both parties got to the moon, nothing really successfully happened after that other than kind of satellites and things like that.
Yeah.
So why not? Technology supposedly progressed and, you know, stuff like that. So you've got the moon landing, you've got aliens, you've got Black Knight, you've got, and we included interdimensional travel in this as well.
Yeah.
Because it's that whole kind of like physics, you know, abstract applied science and stuff like that. So we included that. And then you have that thing called Crystal Children.
Which I said, is it similar or the same as the Star Children?
Well, Crystal Children is an umbrella that covers all of them, and they are usually separated into three groups called... I'm sorry. Star Children is an umbrella that covers all of them, and they're separated into three groups called Crystal Children, Indigo Children, and Rainbow Children. They are supposedly... not always children, but humans that have a higher level of empathy, compassion, understanding, and wisdom.
Yeah.
So some people are of the school of thought that they are like alien human hybrids, or you know, aliens have, you know, pootered with humans and have had these children that have a higher understanding of the world and existence. Some people are of the theory that they are more spiritually evolved, meaning reincarnated from other, you know, having lived on this earth longer than, spiritually lived on the earth longer than us, or reincarnated, or something like that, which bleeds into a whole other topic of mind-fucking.
Yeah.
Which is... well, actually two different branches of it. So we have another one called, I've just called it Afterlife and Religion.
So hang on, sorry, with the last one, are we going to give it...
So aliens, space junk, other dimensions. What are we going to...
Well, for the majority of it, I'm giving a thumbs up.
Yeah.
But then for the Star Children and stuff like that, I'm kind of a bit... Because they apparently speak a completely different language as well.
Some of them, well, no, they don't, they also know another language.
Yeah. ESL, I think what we call English Second Language in Australia.
That's in reference to people that have migrated from other countries. But anyway.
Well, they have migrated from somewhere.
In theory,
Stars.
if you follow that theory. So are we going to give it a... depending on where things fall?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then we'll move on to Afterlife and Religion. So on this one, I just kind of put... NDE, so near-death experiences and people that speak of what they've seen during those.
Yep.
The Great White Light, reincarnation, ghosts, trapped spirits, things of that nature.
Yeah, so anything kind of the spiritual type of
Well,
realm.
not necessarily. Religious-linked spiritual realm. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So we're talking angels, demons, where you go when you croak, what happens to your soul/spirit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not necessarily talking about orbs, earthbound spirits and things like that. Orbs. Because that's the next one. But religious stuff. Now, this is a slippery slope for me.
Me too.
Because I'm, as anybody that really knows me knows, that I am, at the very least, agnostic, but majority of my beliefs are atheist. But at the same time, I'm very spiritual about the possibility of reincarnation and when your body dies, what happens, and things like that. So I'm going to leave it at because science-wise, the whole virgin birth and stuff like that, I just can't buy it because of, well, science. But at the same time, I'm very spiritual about certain things, and you know. So it's tricky. It leaves me conflicted.
Yeah.
So this one I'm going to leave it meh.
Yeah, and for me, it's I consider myself to be an atheist and science. But then I think just because science hasn't explained things doesn't mean science can't explain things.
Exactly.
So I am just going to go for a meh.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll investigate it. We'll inform ourselves further on that. We'll talk to religious fanatics.
Oh, that'll be fun.
We're not going to debate with religious fanatics because we're doing research.
Yeah.
We're not trying to change minds.
Oh, okay. Well, that actually might be fun.
Yeah. I also want to go to that Church of Christian Science in Adelaide.
Oh, is that so it's a spiritualist church,
I don't know. I have no idea. Do any of you know what the Church of Christian Science means? What does it mean? Does it explain the link between Christianity and science? Because if that's a possibility, if you can explain some things off with science but link them into faith in a higher power, I am actually interested in that because it may be, oh God, it may be the answer I'm looking for. No. But let's see what Christian Science is. Okay, so with ghosts and things like that, that moves us on to the next thing, which is the powers of the mind shit. Is what I've called this category, literally, mind shit.
Mind shit, yeah.
So this falls into the category of astral projection, psychics, Nostradamus, mediums that speak to earthbound spirits, what happens when you croak? Can people actually contact you? If so, Meemaw, why aren't you telling me your recipe for hot sauce? What gives,
She's forgotten it.
Probably. I think my grandfather wrote it down. But anyway, that kind of stuff, you don't have to necessarily be religious to be spiritual. So what are your feelings on that? Do you believe... No, you don't believe in any of it. Astral projection, none of it.
No, astral projection, I don't even know how I feel about astral
Telekinesis. Mind powers. Bending spoons, if you will.
That's too... there is no spoon.
I'm kind of, again, haven't seen Matrix. Why do you keep bringing it up? It's my secret shame. I'm kind of meh on that only because if I start saying no to stuff, then I feel like my inner child might die.
Yeah, and I like to be informed, so I like to keep an open mind, but as a general rule, I just think it's probably not.
It's like that whole... Okay, anyways. moving on. Moving on to the next one. I've just called it medical anomalies. Now, I've got a couple of things listed here, but that's reminded me that there are other branches of this that I wanted to get into. Mm-hmm. So what I've written down for medical anomalies is you've got that little girl in like India somewhere, and it's documented that when she is upset and she cries, she doesn't cry tears. From her tear ducts comes what they're calling crystals. I'm guessing it's solidified salt.
Yep.
Or, because your tears have a certain level of salinity in them. So
and when you wake up from your sleep in the morning...
Yeah, it's a crusty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they actually look like shards of glass or crystals. But I'm guessing there's something wrong with their tear ducts or something. Yeah. So I'll research that in the future. There's also that little boy in, like, Cambodia or somewhere like that. He was born with, like crystal blue eyes. And he doesn't have really great vision during the day, but he has nocturnal vision that is like 10 times or 100 times what a cat's is and stuff like that. So he has these nocturnal eyes. So they're just wondering why he was born that way. But also in medical anomalies, I wanted to briefly touch on Bowen therapy, cranial sacral therapy, Reiki, the power of crystals, the power of herbalism, stuff like that. Acupuncture, cupping, all of that kind of stuff, because some of them do have proven medicinal applications. And then some of them you're kind of like, how does that work?
Yeah.
If you don't subscribe to mind shit, astral projection, things like that, then how can Reiki work? Because mind shit works on the powers of the mind and energies and chakras and things like that. But also so does like Bowen therapy and Reiki and things like that. Because in theory, Reiki and Bowen therapy, you don't actually have to touch somebody to heal. Because then that falls into that whole branch of spiritual healing.
Yeah.
So that was my medical topic.
All right, so faith healing is another one that interests me as well. Look, I feel I'm going to give this a...
Me too. I don't know.
Just because, look, things like rocks have power.
Like crystals
and things, and they put them on
energy.
They have energy, and they put them on your body, and it does different things. Now, I don't know if I believe that or not. Yeah, I walk around with a hunk of amethyst in my pocket.
I've left a hunk of citrine here, and I've been missing it ever since. So I get it. I totally get it, and I love crystals. I don't know a lot about the application of crystals. I don't sense any energy from crystals. Plants and herbs, totally different story. But my family has a history in kitchen witchery and stuff like that, which most of you know.
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope for me, though. That's hence the Met. Because if you believe in crystals and you believe in that kind of stuff, then why can't we believe in faith healing, which I don't necessarily believe in?
See, where I think as an umbrella, I think it all kind of fits under this, I don't know, almost like a placebo effect type thing.
The power of positive thinking.
Yeah.
So if you are going to a faith healer with the basic concept that they're going to be able to heal you.
Well, they probably are.
Then they probably are, because you are being positive about it. And positive thinking has proven scientifically to help your physical health.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one, I guess I'll jump through. I'm going to jump over that one. We'll come back to it. AI, artificial intelligence.
Yep.
We're not saying does it exist, because clearly it does.
It does.
You've got... at the very bottom of the rung, you have the ability to recreate the feeling of skin and mucosal areas in like sex dolls and things like that.
Which I think is fantastic.
Which isn't necessarily artificial intelligence, but it's heading that way. Because if you couple that with, you were saying the thing about computer programs evolving with cognitive application.
Yeah, they've even gotten to the point where they actually have designed cars and things like that, and aeroplanes through computers that have cognitive thinking and work out all these problems and everything. And some of the designs are just like incredible.
Well, when you think about like, that's not even something that like super duper Richard Branson top level super wealthy people can afford. Like, you look at these cars that like you and I could buy nowadays that can parallel park themselves.
Oh yeah.
And even you go even further back 20 years to planes with autopilot. Like, granted, the application of that is, the plane's not taking off itself and not landing itself, but...
And it has no capability of learning anything outside of what it's programmed to do.
But when that progresses to what they're doing now, so like computer programs that have that can adapt jokes and things dependent on the particular user's sense of humor.
Yeah.
And things like that. And you have like, what else did I put on here? Artificial intelligence that can watch television and learn accents and things like that. Like artificial intelligence, I think that's definitely something to be scared of. And I'm thumbs-upping that. It's totally terrifying and total mind.
Well, I think we're only steps away from, let's build an aeroplane and get the computer to build it for us to the Terminators walking the street.
Yeah, and even at my local chemist in the north, they took out pharmacists. Well, they have pharmacists there still that check the prescriptions, but nobody fetches the prescription anymore. It's a robot. Yeah. And you can watch it work, which...
Now, I know there's lots of people out there that worry about job security.
It's definitely an issue.
But then I think, well, at this point in time, at least in the near future, we're still going to need to have those people there to watch over the robots and make sure they don't malfunction and that they're doing their jobs correctly and stuff like that.
Which is fine, but there will be fewer people watching over robots while the robots are doing the work. And it's creating this whole environment to where if you don't have some kind of engineering degree or something like that, then your education becomes obsolete. Don't get me wrong. Like, we all know that I work in the support industry, in the kind of Department of Social Inclusion. And since there's always going to be people because breeders continuously procreate.
Yeah, sorry.
And as it stands now, people are still being born with certain disabilities and things like that, and the old are still deteriorating as they get old. There's still going to be those kinds of industries, but then you look at like all of the other labor industries. So car factories, people in car factories have long been replaced by certain
they've been doing robots for years.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And there has already been a decline of people that work in those industries.
Yeah.
So...
Well, we've only got to look at Holden's.
Yeah,
and they're closing.
Exactly.
I'm not even sure in Australia if we even have car manufacturing anymore as of later on this year. And
you look at all like beverage bottling. That's been robotic for years and years and years. Food packaging, stuff like that.
Now, there is a cruise ship that I went on last year. They have a sister ship. And on this sister ship, it actually has a bar. I think it's called the Bionic Bar.
See?
And everything is run by computers and robots.
Right now, that's a novelty, right?
Yeah, but that's
what
the
if
future.
you're a bartender?
Yeah.
And people don't think about this stuff. And it's easy for us not to think about it because of our age. I'm pushing 40. And I don't have children, so I don't have to be concerned about it because I'm like, once I'm dead, I'm dead.
Yeah.
But you have a daughter. And, if we've seen this development in our lifetime, how much is going to change by the time Betty May has to pay a mortgage and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I have to admit, it's a concern. It's very scary.
And, and again, it creates, like right now we have this socioeconomic gap, which kind of melds together in the middle. I have friends that make a little bit more than me a year, 10, 20, 30,000 more a year. And I've got friends that make a little bit less than me, 10, 20, 30,000. But that gap is widening because the manual labor industries, the food industry, bartending, stuff like that. It's a cute little novelty on a cruise ship to have a bartender that is a robot. But when you're looking at trades like, I have friends that are bartenders and they're like 40, 50, and they are really great bartenders. And that's their skill. They're great with people. But in another 30 years, are these people going to have jobs?
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting to look at pharmacists that are out of work. And that just widens that gap because you're going to have a further level of education to oversee these robots and work on these robots. And then, you have people that have...
Even doctors now, when they do keyhole surgery, a lot of the time they use robots.
That's right. But right now, those robots are still being operated by surgeons.
Yes, right now.
Now.
And then it will get to the point where they'll need less of them and it will just be one person in a room with that robot and the robot doing everything else.
So I guess what I'm saying with this topic is there's no question as to whether artificial intelligence exists. It's a thing. It's totally a thing. But is it so far-fetched that we're looking at kind of a zeitgeist, kind of Thunderdome future where we are obsolete?
That's exactly what we're looking to.
I think so too.
I think it's definitely. I think without a doubt.
Killing off of animals. You look at the barrier reef, the less water we have, I don't think Thunderdome is that far off.
No, neither do I. I'm preparing for it.
Yeah, but you're a little bit crazy. I'm not. Although that being said, fiance and I are totally looking at setting up a homestead in Texas that is solar powered, off the grid, well water, while the water is still drinkable, and stuff like that, because this is a very real concept. And I think that our children aren't learning skills that they need to survive because
is that a part of it, though, maybe? That they don't want us to learn the skills that we need to survive?
Who's they?
The government.
The government.
Or the shadow government, even worse.
Oh. So, yes, thumbs up. We're totally headed that way, and we don't even need to do a lot of investigation about that. Like, shit is scary.
Yeah, it really is.
It's super scary. I freaked myself out, and I'm not even alone and stoned, so... okay, so moving on. The next thing, I just put cloning. Because we talked about, it used to be you had to wait for organ transplant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, we've done several successful face transplants. We're possibly looking, weren't you saying earlier that it's at some point this year, hopefully they're hoping to do an entire head transplant?
Yeah, it's either later this year or early next year. They're doing the first ever head transplant.
If that guy stays alive that long.
If he stays alive. But the reason why they've decided to do it is because he actually... he's got a condition and he's eventually going to die anyway. So this is kind of like his last hope.
Is he wealthy?
Now,
and what's his condition, I wonder? See, this is what we'll investigate.
Yeah.
Battery lights flashing. Motor neuron or something, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're guessing. So...
We're going to have to really get this together.
We're almost done anyways.
Okay, cool.
So, they're cloning entire animals now. They used to just clone ears and stuff like that, but that's...
Yeah, Dolly the sheep.
Yeah, entire animals, that's terrifying. So if we're doing head transplants and we're cloning humans, are these people the people they originally started out as?
And I think that's something we definitely need to go into, because that's very questionable. If you don't even have the same body, fingerprints or anything that you used to have, are you the same person?
Yeah. So definitely mind-free.
Yeah.
So we've got one more, and then we'll do the runner-up. Now, this one is a bit of a reach. I put mythological creatures. Now, there's a reason for this, though, and it's specific to one particular mythological creature, but I covered, on this list, I've got centaurs, unicorns, mermaids, Pegasus, and I even touched on elves, pixies, sprites, things like that. The reason for that is, I think, and I'm totally leaning towards that on this one, so we'll do our thumbs up at the end, but I think that a unicorn is not too far-fetched. I think a horned horse is not that far-fetched. You have old ladies in Ohio that have, horns growing out of their cheeks. We have a horned whale, the narwhal.
Yeah.
So I think a horse with a horn, while maybe not necessarily magical, definitely is a thing that's a possibility.
But then you also saying Pegasus, where that's kind of a mixture.
Two species.
Yeah. And that's a little bit more unbelievable, because you can't mix a bird and a horse. That just doesn't happen.
And if you look at why a bird can fly, it's because their bones are hollow. They're things like that. You couldn't have a horse with the same kind of skeletal structure.
Yeah, because it would just kind of break its legs and
and die. Mermaids, there's that theory that they're sea manatees / dugongs. Yeah. So I think I'm meh to meh on that one.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. Meh.
Yeah, more meh than meh. And then I did the last one. So that was our 10, but the last one I did was just kind of a catch-all runner-up, and I covered things like Slender Man.
Yep.
Shapeshifters, things that don't really necessarily fall under aliens or mythological creatures and things of that nature, but are definitely a thing that people are talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's the mindfuck list.
That is.
And there's a lot of bleeps in this because the list is called the mindfuck list. And it's, not an overly informative episode, but it's stuff for you to research. There's lots of podcasts. Coast to Coast, which it used to be Art Bell, which I think was then George Norrie. That was a radio show, but there's podcasts about it.
Yeah.
Even Coast to Coast has a website, even if you want to look into this stuff, and it covers all manner of things: chemtrails, chupacabra, shapeshifters, reptilians, crystal children, all of it.
Yeah.
There's billions of books about it. Just go to your local library and go to the mind section.
Or just get in contact with us and tell us what you want to hear more about, and we'll do the research for you.
Because this list is in no particular order. So if we get some feedback about things that you want to know more about, then that'll probably be the next
Top
thing
of the list.
that we... Yeah. So we'll just drop some of these episodes in the future episodes, but this is something that we don't want to focus all of our time on.
No, but we
do talk about it an awful lot.
Well, it's something that we really enjoy and have in common.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we definitely like talking about it. All right, we better...
That's it, our battery's about to die.
Yeah, our battery's about to die.
Yeah. Thanks, government. Shitty lithium batteries.
Yeah. Bastards. All right.
Future is at your terrified little fingertips. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Flip that.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And our future is at your terrified little fingertips.
All right. So I said at the beginning of the episode, no reenactments this week. We'll have another one next week. Oh yeah, I just got you in it again. All right. Thanks for joining us again. We'll see you next week. Oh!